What's going on YouTube? Kamikazevondoom here with another Division 2 build video. Now I already showed you guys the gameplay, and I actually set a bar this time saying, if you guys have 200 likes on this video, I'll show you guys the build. And, well, we got that. So, here it is. Without further ado, this is my Status Effects DPS build in all of her glory. So I'll let you guys look at this right now. And let me start to explain it. Now, starting at the top, I am using the Firewall specialization. The main and only reason I am really using it is because I am rocking the Imperial Dynasty holster. So the burn duration from the specialization gives you an additional 20% burn duration. So every time that my Imperial Dynasty holster procs and it sets one of these enemies on fire, not only is that fire stronger, but it also lasts longer now too, because this is a status effects build and I have that extra duration. So unless they're hitting that medi real quick, they're not going to survive it. You guys already saw in the gameplay that even with this, I have one skill tier. And even with this, I am hitting people with my Explosive Seeker and killing them with my status effects build. So right now, I'm only at tier 1, shows you right there. PvP damage, 260,000 damage. However, with the way the ticks are and the way my status effects are built, they're dying. It's amazing. It makes it feel like I'm running a skill build when I'm actually running a DPS build. It's amazing. I'm actually really having a lot of fun with this. If you guys couldn't tell, I had like 11 minutes worth of gameplay, and I have more gameplay in this video to show you guys because I've been using it a lot. It's a lot of fun. The other skill I'm using is the Stinger Hive, and same thing. Once they get on this bleed, they're just dying. It's amazing. It's amazing. I highly recommend this build. I made it abundantly clear that I farmed my butt off to get this holster. I farmed Stranded Tanker and Pathway Park in New York so many times I think my eyes were bleeding. And then finally I got one, and I even made a reaction video for you guys because I was that excited when I got it. Because it took so long and I was so happy I didn't have to grind those again. I was really getting like those old Div 1 Lexington vibes. If you guys remember that from the Division 1, we used to have to grind Lexington over and over and over and over for that Barrett's chest piece. And I felt the exact same way to get this holster. But I finally got it, so I'm not going to farm those missions anymore. Thank God! But this build is surrounded by the talent on this exotic holster. It's called the Dragon's Glare. While in combat, it applies a burn to the enemy closest to you within 20 meters. And the cooldown is 35 seconds. So every 35 seconds or faster, depending on your skill haste, because your skill haste does affect this holster's cooldown. So if your cooldown is a little bit shorter, it's because you're running a little bit of skill haste. Anyways, so every time this holster goes off, I get that extra duration from that firewall. And not only that, but I can go ahead and explain, I'm running Perfectly Wicked. So every single time I apply a status effect, I have extra 18% damage for 27 seconds. Like, yeah. So, with that and the chest piece I'm running is Trauma. It applies a blind to an enemy if I shoot them in the head, and it applies a bleed to them if I shoot them in the chest. So now, I have a chest piece that applies status effects. I have a holster that applies status effects. I have a specialization that prolongs the duration of that status effect. And I have Perfectly Wicked, so every time that status effect is applied, my weapons do more damage. And yeah, it's self-explanatory now. So I'm running a skill tier 1 with a Seeker that'll hit and kill people quite a bit. It's actually quite hilarious. Then I have my Pyromaniac hitting at 93k base damage without any of this active. It's a Pyromaniac, so if they're on burn, it's automatically 25%. If they're on burn, I get Perfectly Wicked, which is another 18%. I mean, you start doing the math, people are dying really quick. And then my secondary is the Grudge at 100.5k base damage. And that thing has perfect vindictive. So killing an enemy with a status effect grants me and all my allies within 20 meters 18% crit chance and damage for 20 seconds. It is very easy to get them down on a knee, switch to your Grudge, shoot them, get perfect vindictive, switch back to your Pyromaniac, and all of a sudden you have crit on crit. And then once you get the next guy on burn, you get the perfect ignited with the perfectly wicked and the burning with the extra burn duration from the specialization. It's a mouthful, but it's so much damage that it's hard not to use this build. This build is ridiculous. The only thing I would change on it is the wyvern pieces I'm wearing. I actually had to craft both of them, and I hate them. I wish I could get better items. My RNG is not the best, so a lot of things I craft, and if you guys know anything about the crafting bench, the percentages that you get for your attributes are really low. So obviously I'm going to need to start farming me some wyvern to make this build a little bit better. But yeah, so that was me giving you a little overview. So let's dig deeper into the build. Starting with the Pyromaniac. 93.1k total damage, that's with 15% AR damage, 15.5 health damage, and damage to targets out of cover. This is not the best build, or the best weapon, but it's the only one I've had drop where it had the damage to targets out of cover. I kept getting like crit, reload speed, rate of fire, all those stability, but this is the first one I got damage to targets out of cover, so obviously I had to use this one. Like I was saying, you have perfectly ignited, so all burning enemies, 25% extra damage. After 3 kills, I automatically put them on burn just with a bullet. Now that is where stuff gets really fun, because when you shoot them with the trauma and the perfectly ignited, you have them on bleed, burn, and then if you run up on them, it makes their buddy burn from the holster. Dude, this status effects build is a lot of fun. I'm sorry. Now the attachments, Rugged Mini Reflex, 5% crit chance. I'm running the Laser Pointer, another 5% crit chance. And the Muzzle Brake, another 5% crit chance. For the magazine, I'm running the Sturdy Extended, bumping up my magazine size to 50 rounds. Going to the secondary, like I said earlier, it's the Grudge, 100.5k total damage. That's with 15% SMG damage, 17% crit chance, and 9% damage to targets out of cover. It does have that perfect vindictive, so I do get all that crit, and so do my allies next to me whenever I kill an enemy with a status effect. It's awesome. Now the attachments, again, Rugged Mini Reflex for crit chance. I have the extended 9mm mag for 20 additional rounds, giving my magazine size up to 52. I have the Laser Pointer for more crit chance, and the Osprey 9 Suppressor for more crit chance. Sidearm, like always, is the backup boomstick. Main reason why I'm using this is because of the total damage. If someone runs up on me while I'm reloading, or I have some sort of like, oh crap moment, I can roll out of it, switch to my sidearm, and pretty much guarantee a one-hit kill. Now let's talk about this build. This is not a full status effects build. It's not completely maxed out. This is as high as I could get it and still have my DPS. So I am running 1 Fenris. So without that, you could, get rid of, you could do a few things, but I'm running Fenris for my AR damage, Sokolov Concern for the SMG damage and the status effects, 2 Wyvern Wear for the status effects, Golan Gear for, again, status effects, and then obviously I'm running the Imperial Dynasty holster because it's the Imperial Dynasty holster. The Trauma works amazing with the Perfectly Wicked, and yeah, I think I'm done talking about the talents. Talk about the mask. Fenris Mask, brand set bonus, I get the 10% AR damage. Core attribute is weapon damage at 15%. Normal attributes, I have crit chance at 3.7, status effects at 10%, and crit chance on the red mod for 5.4%. Going to the backpack, this is the Anarchist Cookbook. It's the named Golden Gear backpack. Golden Gear brand set bonus gives me 10% status effects. The core attribute, I rolled weapon damage, 15%. Normal attributes, crit chance, and skill haste. Obviously, you want status effects as one of these attributes, but obviously RNG. So I have crit chance at 4%, skill haste at 10.2%, and then the yellow mod, I used another skill haste at 11.2%. It does have that perfectly wicked, so every time I apply a status effect, it increases my total weapon damage by 18% for 27 seconds. Go down to the gloves, firm handshakes. It's your name, Sokolov Concern gloves. Sokolov Concern brand set bonus, I get 10% SMG damage. I rolled 15% weapon damage, and what comes with the firm handshakes is that 15% status effects. So that's pretty vital. If you want to run a status effects DPS build, I highly recommend running these gloves. It also has weapon handling on it. I don't really want weapon handling. I'd rather have skill haste, crit chance, something like that. For the chest piece, Wyvern Wear chest piece, you can see it's a replica. I had to craft it. Now having two pieces of Wyvern Wear, I get 10% skill damage and 10% status effects. I rolled weapon damage on here at 15%. This was the only chest piece I got to roll with trauma, so I just had to use it to my advantage. It came with armor regen and crit chance. Obviously, I would want status effects on there instead of armor regen, but again, I need to roll a better pair. And then the yellow mod, I threw on there skill haste at 11.1%. Obviously, Imperial Dynasty holster, your new exotic holster in year 2. This one has status effects at 9.1% and hazard protection at 9.1%. Once I get more exotic components, I could re-roll this and try to get it up to that 10%. And finally, Wyvern Wear knee pads. Again, you can see it says replica. I had to craft it. This one came with weapon handling and status effects. It's the only one I got to roll with status effects. So I just maxed out the weapon damage on there and called it a day. Again, without the weapon handling, I could have skill haste, crit chance, the list goes on. So there are ways you could optimize this build even more, but the way I've got it right now, it's good to go. Now for the skills, like I was saying earlier, I'm using the Stinger and the Explosive Seeker. Both of those do bleed, and yeah, it procs my Perfectly Wicked. It's a lot of fun. The Seekers alone will one-hit most players, especially if they're running Glass Cannon. Like, that's a no-brainer. But yeah, so this is it in all of its glory. Let's finish up with the stat sheet. Weapon stats, this is for the Pyromaniac. 93,083 weapon damage with 51,195 PvP damage. I have 34.5% crit chance, 25 crit damage, and 55 headshot damage. Go down to the offensive tab. 85% all weapons damage with 40% assault rifle damage. That gives me 100, what's that, 125? There we go, 125 damage bonus total. Gear talents, again, Perfectly Wicked with Trauma and Dragon's Glare. A lot of fun. Defensive tab, I have 703,575 armor, 3,257 armor regen, and 279,750 health. I do have 15.5% hazard protection, but a lot of that's from my watch. And finally, my skill haste is at 36.7%. So, the skill haste will affect your holster. So the more skill haste you have, the lower the cooldown will be. You're not going to get a 1 second cooldown on the holster, but it is a significant change. I am running status effects, and sadly there is nowhere in the stat sheet that shows status effects. So what I have to do is I actually have to show you. So I have 10 here on the mask, 20 if I add it up with the backpack, 35 with the gloves, 42.1, 51.2, and 61.2 for the Wyvern Wear brand set bonus. So yeah, just above 60% status effects. It could go up above 70%, but yeah, that's a different build. I would have to run it a different way. I wouldn't have to use the Imperial Dynasty. I would have to use some other goodness. But alright, you guys, I hope you enjoyed it. Had a lot of gameplay for you. I really enjoyed this build. Highly recommend it. So let me know in the comment section below what you guys think. How do you run the Imperial Dynasty holster? How do you run the Pyromaniac? And yeah, let's start a discussion. I'm Kamikazevondoom. Like always, hit that like, subscribe to the channel. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.
Immediate medical assistance needed.
I'm sending you a specialization supply drop. You're winning this. Keep going. Friendly claiming the supply drop. The specialization supply drop was just picked up by a friendly.
An agent needs assistance.
Victory. They won't be coming back now.
Rogue hive detected. Allies are acquiring the boost. The boost has been taken by allies.
roads have run out of reinforcements. You can win this.
Agent down. Rogue striker drone detected. Boost about to come online. Rogue seeker mine detected. Rogue explosive seeker mine detected.
The enemy is about to claim the supply drop. The specialization supply drop has fallen into enemy hands.
Rogue restorer hive detected. Boost. Allies are acquiring the boost. Allies have acquired the boost. Agent down.
We're out of reinforcements. Hang in there. There are nation supply drop your way.
An agent needs assistance.
A friendly is claiming the supply drop.
Agent down.
You're the only one left, Agent. Don't give in. The specialization supply drop is in friendly hands. It's all about elimination now. The enemy is about to be black. You're too strong for this.
Rogue stinger hive detected.
There's no pulling out. Keep fighting. The roads have run out of reinforcements. You can win this. I'm sending you a specialization supply drop.
Press forward. existence.